Good afternoon, everyone. My business development tonight's chat box on the to get to Q&A portion. Please note that this is a recorded webinar and will be posted to LAPFCU's YouTube page in the next couple of days. Our panelists tonight are going to be Steve Linder and Ryan Festerling. He is a recently retired supervisory deputy U.S. Marshal who has spent 27 years in federal law enforcement. He served as a supervisor of the Judicial Security Unit, which covered all the threats and inappropriate communications for 2,000 federal employees in his courthouse. He currently is Director of Security for a offensive tactics instructor, active shooter instructor, threat manager, and executive protection specialist. Ryan is a U.S. Army veteran and current law enforcement officer specializing in physical security, threat mitigations, and critical asset fortification. Throughout his career, he has been involved in force protection operations both domestically and internationally for high-ranking military and law enforcement officials, high-profile affiliates, and well-known celebrities. His background also includes investigations and ensuring continuity of operations in austere environment. I have Sarah Darby from 60, Sarah is the Director of Marketing at Wall by Incognito to help protect their personal with has driven awareness, data strategies, and privacy protection. So you might be at LAPFCU in this particular way. As your trusted financial institution, information is a top, especially given current concern. While we are protecting your banking information with an institution, we provide guidance with LAPFCU. The floor is yours.
Hey, good evening, everybody. So we're coming to you from Chicago. Can you hear us okay? Sarah, give me a thumbs up if you can. All right. So I agreed to do this webinar because I care about police officers. I care about, our first responders. I'm retired from 27 years in federal law enforcement. I was with the Marshals for 22 of those years, and my job was to protect all the federal judges in the Northern District of Illinois. That included 78 federal judges. And under my umbrella of protection was about 2,000 other federal employees, including probation officers, pretrial officers, U.S. attorneys, clerks, courthouse employees, and everyone. So I'm very embedded in judicial security. I agreed to do this because I care about cops. And I'm not going to waste any time. There's two things that our first responders, our police officers need to do to protect themselves. So the first one is residential security, taking care of the home base, where we live, alarms, cameras, deterrents, things of those nature, making our home a hard target. We need to have an alarm with a 24-hour monitoring center. We need to have cameras, illumination, motion detection, video surveillance, and deterrence, because when someone goes to hurt us or hurt our family, they're going to do it where we are most vulnerable, at our home. And believe it or not, there will be counter surveillance, there will be dry runs, there are phases to the attacks of targeted violence, and they will conduct counter surveillance. So even though every cop I talk to is like, oh, I got a gun, I got 2 guns, I got a rifle, I got a shotgun, my wife is also a law enforcement officer. I have 5 kids, and all the teenagers know how to shoot, but I'm not there all the time. And when I'm on the road, when I'm at work, I want to know that my home is protected. So we have to solidify that with alarms, cameras, deterrence, illumination, motion detection, and deterrence. If not, we are walking around with an umbrella with holes in it, and it is pouring out. besides protecting ourselves at home, we have to protect ourselves online. The internet is a wonderful thing, right? It does a lot of good stuff, but it does a lot of bad stuff. Our information, our personal information is leaked to the internet many, many times a day. Every bill we pay, every time we sign up for a service, a title, renewing our license, getting a new policy, getting any type of utility, anywhere that they can connect our name and our address, it is spilling onto the internet. As simple as ordering a pizza. What we found during COVID was these major data vendors and these major data brokers, and those are the companies that go and look for your information and then republish it. They harvest your personal information and then they republish it. And there are thousands of these major data vendors and major data brokers that are online just spilling your information out there. What we found during COVID was the mom and pop pizza places, the Chinese restaurant, the Grubhub, the Uber Eats, all these companies that are delivering to your house. Anywhere that they are connecting your name and your address, they are selling it to someone. There is no reasonable expectation of privacy. You need to delete that information off the internet. Try doing it yourself. It's a ambiguous process. There are thousands of these sites. You need to get a company that can do it for you. The company that I rely on and I have relied on for years is Ironwall. There are a lot of companies out there, but no one does it like Ironwall. This is an ongoing process. This is not a one and done. I'm going to share my screen real quick so you could see my personal portal because I want you to see, how this works. This is my personal portal. If you look over at the right, 929 times Ironwall has removed my personal information off the internet. And I've been signed up with them since 2021. So that number just keeps increasing all the time. It's very scary. This is not a one and done. This is, my information may be leaked to the internet tomorrow or the next day. You need a company that's out there looking for this information. So protecting yourself at home, protecting yourself online. Some of the scariest things that you could say are, it's not going to happen to me. It's not going to happen here. I'm fine. I have guns. That you are not prepared, right? I lived through the Ferguson episode with the hands up, don't shoot. I know Darren Wilson, the police officer that was involved in that. And as soon as that happened, when he shot Michael Brown, very unfortunate incident, they found his address. They were broadcasting from in front of his house, right? They were in front of his house. The ambulance chasers were calling him. They were harassing his family. As police officers, we can't predict if we're going to get into a shooting. We can't predict whether there's going to be a use of force. We saw the same thing with many other police shootings. The Laquan McDonald shooting here in Chicago was a very public shooting. Jason Van Dyke, Laquan McDonald had a knife, and it was a very controversial shooting. They were at his house within 20 minutes. How did they find that information? Because the information was available. Out doing the job that we do. We're out responding to calls, traffic stops, domestics, warrants, fugitives, whatever it is. We can't predict when we're going to be involved in a situation like that. I was a victim of this myself. I was involved in a use of force, which was all over the news, and I got calls on my personal cell phone 20 minutes after it hit the news from these reporters asking for a statement. They never came to my house, but they sure found my phone number pretty quick. So those are the two major things that I wanted to talk about tonight: protecting the home and protecting ourselves online. And with that, I'll pause and I'll see if Ryan has something to add.
I do, and I'll start from the beginning. Can you everybody hear me okay, sir? You good? Okay. So when we're thinking about physical security, especially if we're living in a home, those who live at home or in apartments, think of physical security on your home as an onion and the layers that you need to put on your access point and your whole castle in itself. And when we talk about layers, we're going even from screens on windows, blinds on the inside, curtains, that's three layers right there. And then if you add a motion alarm inside of your home, that's a fourth layer. And if you add a camera on the outside, that's a fifth layer. So when you're going and deciding what your mitigation should be, focus on the layers that you can put on each access point and the home in its entirety. Going to the digital concept, your posture on the internet is, I mean, nowadays is very, very important. You know, what the data brokers have and then what social media has. When these bad actors that want to do nefarious things, they are going to use both of those strategies, what you have on social media and what they can get from data brokers. It's time and time again, it's proven that when these nefarious actors, they will use all of the resources and then combine them together. There was a judge recently, not recently, but a judge that had a murder that happened in their family. After investigation, it was clear that the criminal really did his research. And a lot of that came from the data that he was found on the internet. Also, that one thing that you should look at is the family members that you have, your close family members, especially if you have social media platforms, what they have and what information that they are putting out on the internet that could affect you and your job. With that, I'll give that back to Steve. Thanks.
Ryan, those are very good points. You know, I heard something the other day that the White House proclaimed that there was a 700% increase in assaults on federal immigration officers. And that was mind blowing to me. And, you know, I know a lot of the police officers are LAPD or LA County. And well, I'm not ICE, so that doesn't affect me. But it does, because especially in Chicago, a lot of our federal task forces have to assist immigration, have to, respond to calls. If there's a 10-1, it doesn't matter what agency it is, you will be responding to that. We saw what happened in Texas just a couple of days ago at McAllen Border Patrol Station. Some guy went to their Border Patrol office and started shooting, and the responding local cops got into a firefight. One of the cops was shot, right? So even if we are a local police officer, this affects us. And there was, I'm sure you guys all saw the 10 people that were charged with the attempted murder at the ICE office in Texas. We had local police officers that responded there. So even though we're not immigration, we may not be out on immigration missions, you never know when this is going to affect us. There is a war on law enforcement. There is the badge is being targeted now. Like for the first time ever, they've approved, federal agents wearing masks when they're out doing their missions, right? I have seen multiple Facebook groups, and I've been shown multiple websites where all they do, they're doxing cops. They're putting out home addresses of cops. They're putting out pictures of cops, right? So this is a scary time. You don't want them to be able to get this information. And I wanted to put something on the radar of our officers, right? You guys may or may not have heard of Pizzagate, right? Pizzagate is a term that refers to hundreds of federal judges around the country that were receiving pizzas delivered to their house. And a lot of them were in the name of Daniel Anderl. Daniel Anderl is the murdered son of Judge Esther Salas in New Jersey. So what this person or these groups were doing was they were sending pizzas to say, I know where you live. I know where you sleep. And not all the judges in the country have iron wall, but I do know all the judges in Chicago have iron wall, and a lot of districts do. And out of the 78 federal judges, and I still talk to a lot of them, not one of our judges got a pizza because their information was not available to these predators out there using it for no good. Not protecting yourself at home with your residential security and not protecting yourself online. You are driving at night with no headlights on. You have an umbrella with holes in it. You are not protecting your family. We do a dangerous job. I've been studying attacks, targeted violence attacks, attacks on judges for years. And we know that these don't happen at the drop of a hat. It's not a knee-jerk reaction. There are phases of the attack. The FBI has confirmed this. Number one is target acquisition. Who are we going to go after, right? Who do we want to get? We want to get Sergeant Joe Smith or whatever from LAPD. Okay. Then the next phase is the intelligence gathering. Where does he live? What does he drive? What does he do? What's his schedule? During that intelligence gathering phase is when they're going to try to do drive-bys, counter surveillance, drones. They're going to try to find out where you live. This is where protecting yourself online and not giving these bad actors access to this information, they will get stymied. And if, God forbid, they do find this information, we want them to see all our levels of security. I want them to see that big alarm sign in your front lawn, that camera, the cameras, the illumination, the lighting. What I challenge you to do is go take a walk with your kid or your spouse or whoever, walk up and down your street, wherever you live, and take a look at each house. Some houses will have a little bit of security, maybe a Ring doorbell, maybe one light, maybe one camera. Some houses will have lots of security, the alarm signs, the cameras, the spotlights, the beware of dog, the I got this alarm company, all these wireless cameras, hardwired cameras. And then some houses will have nothing, right? That is a soft target. What do you want the bad guys to see when they go looking at your house? And the same thing goes for people that want to burglarize homes, who want to do home invasions. You know, you want them to see your home as a hard target. I'm not messing with that house because I know an alarm company is going to be notified. I'm going to be on video surveillance. Maybe a dog's going to come out and bite me, right? I have levels of protection. All the cases that I've studied on violence against judges and protectees and U.S. attorneys, there is always a phases of the attack: target acquisition, intelligence gathering, and if they can get by the intelligence gathering, pre-operational planning and execution. My history of attacks on judges started it with Judge Joan Lefkoe, and I'm going to share my screen real quick. Can you see my screen, Sarah, or no?
I see the Iron Wall portal.
You still see the Iron Wall portal?
Mm-hmm.
You should see the Judge Joan Lefkoe now. You don't?
Not currently.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm not going to worry about it. But Judge Joan Lefkoe, 2005, she was a federal judge in Chicago, right? I'll never forget. My wife was pregnant at the time. I got a call from my chief. He says, I don't care what you're doing. Go to this address now. Get your rifle and your vest and all your ammo and go. I was a younger deputy, right? I'd been on for a year and a half. I was like, okay. So I went to this house. And what I was responding to was the murder of Judge Joan Lefkoe's husband, mother, and her daughter was shot, right? And the blood was about 6 inches thick in the basement. That case will stay with me forever. And it took a couple of weeks to figure out it was a guy named Bart Ross who did it. He was a pro se litigant. But the important part here is that he conducted counter surveillance. He found their address very quick and he conducted counter surveillance. He knew what time she went to work. He knew when her daughters went to school. He knew what day her husband worked from home because he watched. After the pre-operational planning is execution. Officers, it's time. Protect yourself online, protect yourself at home. I can't stress that enough. There's a ton of other safety tips, but those are the two major building blocks which we need to get across to you as soon as possible. And Ryan, I'll kick it back to you.
So with the safety tips, I'll touch on this, your digital hygiene. Make sure that we're using strong and unique passwords, and most of your systems that you should be on should enable two-factor authentications. You should have that for both personal and professional accounts. Again, with the home security, physical security should be layered at your residence or where your dwelling is. Also, identify your routes in and out from work. Don't take the same routes. Again, the personal information on the internet is there. Every time you go to any type of website, the data is collected and sold over. Anytime, any type of website, your data is getting sold. Iron Wall is what I use as well. And it helps me sleep better at night knowing that somebody else is taking care of it, that I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to show you my screen. I think mine's over 1,000 right now. I'm pretty close to what's going on right now. So, and I have been doxxed. I was doxxed in Portland in 2019, and it took a little while to get everything figured out and cleaned up. So I'm appreciative of what Iron Wall was able to do for me. And this is a good opportunity for this type of training. Ask your agency or go online and find other additional training. There's cybersecurity, situational awareness training, threat assessment training. You can do your own homework, and you could be your own warrior in this war. So thank you very much.
So, Sarah, I know you had some questions for last time. I don't know if there's anything in the chat. I didn't want to bore the viewers with going through case studies. Those are the two main things I wanted to hit. And I don't know if they have questions or you wanted to bring up certain topics that you wanted us to talk about, but those are the two main things. And if you want to talk about alarms, cameras, any of those things, any of those systems, Ryan and I are both physical security specialists, and we could help you guys out with that.
Of course, thanks. Just so everyone knows, please, you can ask some questions in the chat. I don't see any at this time, but I do have some on hand, just like you said. Wanted to get started first with, you mentioned Facebook groups, but in your experience, and either one of you can answer this, what's the most common way threats are made against police officers? You can, what it could be maybe emails, phone calls, letters, like what have you found in your experience to be the most common way?
You want to answer that, Ryan, or you want me to?
You can go and I'll touch base. I'll touch whatever you don't get.
So I managed all the threats in Northern Illinois, and we saw a lot of threats come via email, via phone, via social media. But now they're masking them better. They're using VPN, so the VPN will come up like an email address in Bulgaria, or they're using spoofed phone numbers, or they're using dummy accounts. Right? If they want to hide who they are, they can do that very easily. And the law enforcement officers, it's like chasing our tail. We got to serve a subpoena on this company, then we got to serve a court order on this company, and we're chasing the information. So to answer your question, we have seen that a ton of different mechanisms for sending threats: phones, email, social media, text messages, burner phones, you name it.
Yeah, and I'll just piggyback off that real quick. So absolutely, any media, social media platform, we can get threats. Obviously, the verbal direct threats of violence or doxing that we get to our faces, mostly are also social media. We also can't forget about letters, actually handwritten letters, although rare, it like extremist groups or targeted harassment, and then obviously, of course, from our incarcerated subjects, who can write letters. With the ability to have those hidden apps, and even now, recently saw that there's ways to communicate using the simple Notes app on an Apple phone that you can share with someone. That as soon as you have their number, you can share the notes with them without sending a message, which is really unique that they're looking at now. So, just really any way that there is a communication line that you can get these threats.
So, Sarah, there was a question in the chat about how can I get my pictures down if I happen to be seen on these Facebook groups or sites like that. The only mechanism I know to do that is through either the Facebook, you report it, but you may not have a lot of luck with that. I want to tell you about an incident where I had an assistant U.S. attorney come to me and say, "Hey, I'm prosecuting these cartel members, and I got a problem." And I said, what's up? And he said, well, I play in a band, and I had a couple of drinks one night, and I got a DUI. I'm like, oh, sorry, it happens. He's like, well, I got booked, and my mugshot is online, and it's on one of these like mugshot finder sites. And I said, okay, have you asked them to take it down? And he said, yeah, they want $5,000. I said, $5,000? You tell them who you are? And he said, yeah, I told him I'm an assistant U.S. attorney. They said, well, it's public information, $5,000. So I said, all right, let me try. So I emailed them and said, hey, this is a federal officer. We want you to take this down. They said, tough crap, $5,000. So I said, well, the only other person that I know that might be able to get this down is Ron Zayas. Ron Zayas is the CEO from Ironwall. I connected him to this, and I don't know what magic he did, but he had it down within 2 hours, right? So if there's something non-favorable online, I would ask the folks at Ironwall to try to get it down. They have the secret sauce. They have magic that they don't share, but they have a way to get things off the internet that I don't. And I hope that answered your question. If you could find something like that, let Ironwall try to get it down for you, because I've never had them not get anything down. And then I think there was another question. What is doxing? Doxing is the publishing of personal information, pictures. Like for instance, Ryan, I had his home address and I posted it online, or I posted it on some group. Like he lives at 123 Main Street. That's doxing. The publishing of information of someone else without their permission.
So to follow up with, I apologize, Ryan, but before we move on to doxing, we had a follow-up on the original question that Darcy had asked, and she wasn't necessarily referring to social media, but there is a watchthewatchers.net website that has a list of being able to search LAPD officers by name, serial number, badge number, things like that. That's the type of question that she was asking, if you have insight on that.
Who manages that website? Is it LAPD?
I do not believe so. This sounds like
It
outside of
sounds
that.
like bad actors. Well,
yes.
It's bad actors.
Mm-hmm.
I would let the privacy experts at Ironwall get a crack at trying to get it down. And they wouldn't go to this website. They would go to the web host. They would go to Google saying, hey, this information is endangering this person, this first responder, this judge, this law enforcement officer. Please take it down. Sarah, you might be able to talk about how you guys do that better than me. I've just seen you guys do it.
I mean, for the most part, the biggest focus we have is primarily on personal identifying information. So any instance of name and phone number and name and address. But we do, because that one has most of the legal backing for us to be able to enforce removal. However, I will say beyond that, we have had success. But for something like this, I would need to refer to my CEO to make sure we had more clarity. I believe he's reached out. We're definitely aware of this site, and it's on our radar to see what we can do to try and help as much as possible for people who are protected under us. And was there anything else about doxing, Ryan, that you wanted to, like going back to that question, that you wanted to add to that?
They're trying to put their information on there for a malicious intent, right? You need, those are the two key words that if you're ever trying to put this to a supervisor or to a lawyer or to anything needs to be written down, the main words need to be your information was put on the internet for malicious intent. Main two words.
Okay. Another question that I actually had to go back to threats in general. If you are an officer that received the threat, I guess, Ryan, you have experienced this, and both of you have experienced this, but what would be your immediate course of action when experiencing that?
Steve, I'll take this real quick. So immediate first call is going to be to the supervisor. That's probably general policy. I know it's probably easier said than done, but try to remain as calm as possible. I remember, that gut feeling like when I realized what had happened, try to avoid being reacting emotionally. And then document everything, screenshots, pictures of everything. Make sure that you notify your family that this occurred, your relatives, the ones that are closest to you, and then again begin your digital posture and see where you're at on the internet. If you were utilizing Ironwall, I would let them know right away that something like that had happened, and they could try to start working with you to get those things off the internet.
I would add that, you know, it wouldn't hurt you to go to your local police, especially if you're in a suburb, and be like, hey, I just got a threat. We're investigating it. You know, if you could, you know, put it out at briefing, a couple of extra drive-bys. You know, most departments, especially in the suburbs, are willing to do that, especially with judges or first responders. And another thing I would do is, and I've done this with tons of protectees, is get on Google, get on Bing, get on Yahoo, start searching yourself, right? You will be surprised at so many things that come up about you. I'll never forget, I did this with the assistant United States attorney after she had received a threat, and she started Googling herself. And the second thing that came up was a picture of her husband, and their newborn baby in front of their house with the 3 digits of their house. And she about screamed. She freaked out. She's like, what is that? So we clicked on it. It was from a baby registry site. And I said, did you give them permission? She's like, no, I signed up with them, but I didn't know they'd post this. So we worked to get that down. But what's important is to go and find all those crumbs that are on the internet. If you're involved in sports, if you're involved in your school board, or any types of things that are out there, you have to know what's out there before you can remove it. If you look me up, there's a lot of stuff about boxing. There's a lot of stuff about training, stuff like that. But you won't find my home address. I've taken a lot of steps to remove that. If you look up Ryan, you'll find, you know, stuff about him. But it's very important to know what other people are seeing on these search engines, and, you know, put in your name, and name in your town, and name in where you grew up, and name in your wife's name. You know, just keep playing around with these search engines and give it more tentacles to see what it'll pull. And once you know what's out there, then you could work to get those things down. I see some more stuff in the chat. I'm trying to get caught up.
And I'm catching up with a question that I think was asked. Someone asked as well, I was a civilian with LAPD and had testified against an officer. This officer had a history of retaliation. What can be done to prevent this from happening?
That sounds like an internal matter with the department. I don't know that anything else. I mean, you might have to hire a lawyer. But that sounds like an Office of Professional Responsibility matter, not a privacy matter. Zello had peace officers' addresses and other personal information. It amazes me how unsuccessful the legal system is and cannot disconnect these money mongers. Do you mean Zillow? Like,
I believe so.
okay, so I've had a lot of success with getting things removed off of Zillow, like owner information and floor plans. When I bought a house a couple of years ago, I noticed that the previous realtor had put floor plans on Zillow and Realtor.com, and I worked very hard to get those down off of there because my name wasn't attached to it, but God forbid someone did have my address. I didn't want them to have my floor plans. So, you know, these companies are automatically going to sell your information. It's very important that if you download an app, you go on a website, they ask you about cookies, right? My kids all the time, they say, yes, yes, yes. And I tell them, no, you don't accept those cookies. You don't let them sell your information. You don't give them the permission. A lot of people just click through that, but that's a huge no-no, because what you're doing is you're saying, yes, sell my information as many times as you'd like. Have fun with my personal information. You sign up for like a home lawn service using one of these sites like Angie or something like that. As soon as you connect your name and your address, boom, they're selling off your stuff. You use like Intuit QuickBooks, boom, they're selling off all your information. You have to be very careful about what you allow these companies to do. Most of them will say, don't sell my personal information, or that little tiny box at the bottom of one of the screens. You have to find that and tell them, don't do it. It's not okay.
And I had a follow-up question just in regards to, let me double check here. How, back to threats necessarily when experiencing one, how and what should an officer communicate the threat to the necessary parties?
So, like Ryan said, they have to let their law enforcement body know. If they are a cop, cops are like, hey, I don't want to report a threat. I'm a cop. I carry a gun. But you have to let your chain of command know. You have to let your supervisors know. You have to let your family know and the local cops, right? And so, even your neighbors, hey, if you see something weird, you got to let us know, and check those cameras. Check those cameras. See who's parked out in front of your house. See what's going on. Collect plates. Don't let them have free surveillance on your home or watch you, especially if there's an ongoing threat.
Absolutely. So what you should communicate is everything factually and go through all those official channels as well, especially with your leadership in your agency. That's very important. Threats can come in many ways, threats of violence, threats of blackmail, espionage, there's those things that can happen. So, make sure that you have all of your ducks in a row and is factual information that you can bring to whoever you need to bring that information to.
Ryan, there's a computer question. Is it advisable to clear your
Your
cache?
cache. You should clear your caches, yes. Some websites will require it if you don't log off of them and correctly, or you just close your browser, that you have to clear your cache to log back on. With higher encrypted logins have that. I do advise to clear your caches.
And since we're talking about the internet, one of the things that I always told my judges and my protectees is don't let these free crumbs go on the internet. Facebook, social media. We got a rule in my family. My wife loves to travel, but she can't post about anything until we are back home. I don't want to tell anyone I'm away from my home. I don't want to tell anyone, hey, I'm not at my residence. I'm somewhere else. Fight the urge to check in every time you go to a restaurant or to the gym or on a trip, things like that. Also, those back to school photos that lots of moms and dads like. You know who likes those back to school photos? The kidnappers and the predators, because they're getting all that free information. Your kid is this age. This is their name. This is their teacher. This is what their favorite subject is. And a lot of people make the critical mistake of taking those pictures right in front of the house and it shows the digits. Those are crumbs. The bad actors, they're out there looking for crumbs, your crumbs, to put them together, especially if they're looking to hurt you. Hey, a cop lives at this house. Be careful with those blue line flags. Be careful with all those signs in the front yard. My kid goes to this school and he's on the volleyball team, or he's on the wrestling team, or he's going to this college, or he just graduated from here. The people that are important in your life will know that stuff. You don't have to advertise that stuff. Same with the stickers on your car. Oh, I got 5 kids and I got a dog, or I'm part of this association, or my kid's an A student at this school. That's too much information. Stop giving that stuff away. We all are first responders. We run towards danger, and there's a war on law enforcement right now. So protect that information, please.
And one of the last questions that I have is, once an immediate threat has been handled, what long-term security measures and behaviors should the officers take at that point?
You want to talk about safety plans and things like that, Ryan?
Right. So you should definitely set up long-term safety plans, contingency plans if you had to leave your home for an extended amount of time. I mean, everybody should have a 3-day bag that you could leave an area where you could survive for 3 days, either in a hotel or a vehicle if necessary. Long term, you got to always look at updating your privacy settings. Um, Constant updates on your computers will change your privacy settings. Make sure you're keeping up to date with that. Um, if it's even critical to the point where your address is still vulnerable, PO boxes are a good thing to utilize. I know Steve's had a PO box for a long time. I utilize one as well. Um, and then, of course, no one likes to hear it, but technology gets faster and better every single day. So you could put a camera system in, and then shortly after, 5 years, 7 years goes by, and there's new cameras out, and those old cameras are obsolete, and the network and the programming could be vulnerable to or susceptible to being hacked. So your systems that you do utilize, need to be updated, and you have to continue on with the updating technology. Steve, I'll push this to you then.
There was one thing I wanted to add about rideshare. So I have teenage daughters, and I don't let them put in our home address to be dropped off or picked up on for ride shares. I do that for a number of reasons. I'm sure there's lots of great Uber and Lyft drivers, but I'm sure there's some that aren't on the up and up. I don't want them seeing where my teenagers get dropped off and get picked up. And if we're going away on a vacation, I don't want the Uber driver to know that. I always put in an address a couple of houses down. I get dropped off at different addresses. And rideshare, we all take Ubers and Lyfts. In Uber, there's something called a safety kit, which a lot of people don't know about. If something is going wrong in your Uber, you could open up the safety kit and hit a silent arrest. It works in all 50 states, and it'll go to the local police jurisdiction. It's like a 911 call to say that something's going on. I'm in trouble. Also, when you get into ride shares, make sure that the child locks aren't on. There was a couple of cases of women who were assaulted, and the Uber drivers trapped them by having the child safety locks engaged so they could not get out. Those are just some little tidbits that I wanted to pass on to you guys.
And maybe Ryan, you can help with this, but someone was asking if having your Facebook set to only friends, is that enough
So
in order for setting that setting?
So you have to understand that even if your friends, say your friends like that, like your picture, like the post, or share the post, it can still come back to you. Now, depending on what information you have on the internet in itself, or how the threat is, the level of the threat, a nefarious actor will find a way. And if that's creating multiple accounts that become a Facebook friend of a Facebook friend to get you closer there, that's you have to really kind of look at that at a 100 foot view and see if that's worth it, to have Facebook itself, or what you're going to put on the internet. There was a question: there were some free or paid open sources you use on internet conduct your investigations. Now you mean investigations like your own to see if your name's on the internet? Is that what they're looking for? Or that'd be good, James, if you could. No.
We do have a follow-up. To look up someone, he's saying.
There's so many people finder sites. There's over 1,000. Most of them are operated in the United States. Some of them are operated overseas. If you put in, a name and a home address, you'll see hundreds of them come up. Some are free. Some have paywalls, like PQ, LexisNexis, Accurate, Clear. There's, so many of them. It's unbelievable.
And another question is best practices on how to respond if a teen is harassed or worse, extorted online.
Ooh.
Well, go ahead, Ryan.
Go ahead, Steve. Go ahead. I know what you're going to go.
I would say we want to monitor, what our kids are doing, and hopefully it's not too late. Sextortion is a big thing. NCMEC, NCMEC, that's the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. They have a lot of good free information on how to deal with sextortion. and teens being sexually harassed and things like that. So I would check out the NCMEC website. If they're being harassed or extorted, I would definitely try to find out, what email, what phone number, what platform this is coming to, and work with your local police. Most police departments will have officers assigned to just doing, sex crimes, online crimes, things of that nature. I know Chicago PD has a whole big, unit for that. Our FBI office here in Chicago does. So I'm sure that your local police will have officers who specialize in just these internet crimes. Postal inspectors and Homeland Security, they also have a lot of units that deal with, human trafficking, sexual assault online, things of that nature. I hope that answered your question, Joey.
Okay, I have one final question, and then of course, if anyone asks anything else in the chat, but do you have any recommendations to make sure officers are staying aware of new threats and sources for ongoing education?
I am a member of ATAP. That's the Association for Threat Assessment Professionals. I go to a lot of conferences. I attend a lot of online training, and ATAP really talks about all the cutting edge stuff on threats that are coming in, things that they're seeing, and you can network with threat assessment professionals. I believe you have to be, in the threat assessment field. You don't have to be law enforcement, but keeping up with ATAP, ATAP, Alpha Tango, Alpha Papa, is a great resource for, staying dialed into what's going on in the threat world and the new technology. And AI is just exploding. My wife was scrolling on Facebook the other night, and she was saying that, I think 3 out of 10 videos I watch are all AI produced. I don't even know what to believe anymore. So it's not too far fetched that, deep fakes of officers, using force or arresting people will start popping up at some point. So that's something to be aware of as well.
And I'll just piggyback off on that. The local police departments and even the larger city police departments should have fusion centers with a good email address. You should be able to get direct information from the fusion centers of any issues or any intel that should be coming through. Also, on top of that, you should continue with the different ways that people are getting your information on the internet. Things like Ironwall, they will constantly give you emails and updates about different trends and things that they are seeing, and that you can be up to date with all of the different trends that are continuously happening. Those timely updates and awareness will definitely mitigate a lot of your vulnerabilities.
Edwina said, is JRIC associated with your cybersecurity? I've never heard of that. What does that stand for? But I did want to throw, something else in about the residential security if I had time. When you are picking, a company or a contractor, make sure that your alarm company specializes in alarm and security. A lot of cable companies have thrown alarms in just to kind of add it to your bundle. But they have to outsource their monitoring center, things like that. Find a company that specializes in security and test your alarm. A lot of these DIY companies are all Wi-Fi based with no cellular backup. I don't want to mention companies by names, but do your homework and test your alarm, right? If someone cuts your power and it's only Wi-Fi based, you're not going to have your alarm. You want the cellular backup so that alarm will still go off. And test that alarm. That alarm company should be calling you within 30 seconds. Any more than 30 seconds, and there's built-in delays. Some companies have built-in delays to prevent false alarms, and they're gonna send you app notifications and text messages, and that time is vital, right? I've been doing martial arts a long time. I know what it's like to fight someone for 2 minutes in a row, right? You're fighting for your life. That is a huge thing. Make sure that alarm company is calling you within 30 seconds. And if you don't tell them it's clear, they're launching the police. That is valuable time. So do your homework about these. Try to get cameras that will save the videos. Try to get cameras that will have illumination built up and motion detection. I have so many cameras around my house. If someone walks near my property, my phone about has a seizure with notification. So just do your homework with that. If anyone wants to talk offline about the alarm companies, I certainly will, but they all aren't the same. Just because they're the biggest doesn't mean they're the best.
And Ryan, there's a question about blocking spam via phone or email. Do you have any tips on that?
I know that there is a way to identify spam calls on the phone. I'm not sure if it will, and then through email, you should be able to, if it's not a subscribed thing, you should send it right to a spam mailbox. I don't know too many specifics on that.
I will say I can add to that a little bit just because it's similar to our industry, but removing your personal information includes your phone number and things like that. It does lower the amount of spam. It's very difficult to fully block it off just because they find their sources all over the place and it's constant. But it is a piece of it that can help with that too.
Edwina, I think you should email me something in the chat. I don't want to mention companies by name, but my email's in there. I'll talk offline with anyone about alarms. I had to go to all the houses of the federal judges, and Ryan and I have worked together for years, and we build security systems for protectees, and we know what works and what doesn't work, and the companies are not all built the same. I'll just tell you that much. What other questions do you have?
That's all the questions that we currently have. I just wanted to ask if either of you had any final words you wanted to do before I pass it back to Daniel.
I just want to say, I feel so strongly about this. You go out to dinner with your family, you spend $100. If you got 5 kids like me, you're spending 200. Getting a data deletion company, I don't know, they offer cops a good deal, but this is money well spent. This helps you sleep at night. I feel comfortable every time I get an email saying Iron Wall took my stuff off the internet. It makes me feel better, right? It makes me feel like my info is protected. I teach a class on personal protection, and I hold up $100 bill, and I bet anyone, if you could find my home address, here you go, I'll give you $100. That's how confident I am. And if you're not spending that money to protect yourself, you are behind the curve. Please, it's money well spent. And get those alarm systems, get those cameras at your house. Don't wait, right? The most dangerous things you could say are, it's not going to happen to me, it's not going to happen here. That's all BS. All right. Well, thank you for your time. And Ryan, I will see you tomorrow. No.
Yes, sir.
He's my workout partner.
All right. Well, thank you, Steve, Ryan, and Sarah. Just based off of your bios and what you guys actually do for a living, I can tell you're very, very busy people. And the fact that you took time out of your day to speak to our membership just really says a lot about who you are and the partnership we have with Iron Wall. And to address some of the questions in the chat, I think that are coming in right now, if you just give me a quick second, I'm going to let you guys know how to actually get Iron Wall. All right, so Iron Wall is specific to our Guardian checking account. So if you're a sworn member of law enforcement, you would qualify for the Guardian checking account with the Iron Wall add-on, and it's totally free. The only requirement is to have at least $500 come into the account once a month, or so if you have direct deposit, that would obviously take care of it. If you're a spouse of a sworn or retired law enforcement officer, you would need to make sure that your spouse is enrolled into the Guardian checking. So if you have a different checking account, you would need to switch into a Guardian checking account. Okay. Now, keep in mind, this does have to follow the law enforcement member. So if it's not you, it would need to be your spouse, or if you are sworn on the call, sworn or retired, active or retired, I'm sorry, you would qualify for this particular account. We do have a non-sworn option. This is for civilian law enforcement professionals, okay? This is going to give you guys a free ID theft protection and restoration service. So if you encounter identity theft, if you see your social security number has been compromised, things of that nature, Santique will help you clear all that up. They'll contact the credit bureaus on your behalf. They'll send letters and they'll get this squared away. If you've ever been a victim of identity theft, there's a lot involved. So you have Santique that's going to help you get through this. If you'd like more information about the checking account itself, you can go to our website, which is right there, lapfcu.org/guardian. And for everybody else, if you're just a family member or you're not a sworn or civilian member of law enforcement, you do have access to privacy protection via the credit union as well. Okay, so you have free unlimited 24/7 fraud resolution assistance via Life Stages by Santique. There's also discounts available if you decide to upgrade and buy a package for credit and ID monitoring. My contact information is there, so if you have any information that isn't for Steve and the security systems, you can reach out to me. You can hover over that QR code there as well, and it'll take you to a landing page and just give you a little bit more information about some of the privacy protections that we offer. And once again, like I said, the webinar is being recorded, so this will be emailed to you within the next couple of days. And that's pretty much it. Thank you all for your time. You guys have a great night.
Thank you, guys.